All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto our power, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who taught us his truth and who also will well. Peace and salutation to those of the hopeful elect. Just want to do a quick lesson. All right, going into, that power. All right, the power that, Yahweh Shema Shai is going to bestow upon his elect. All right. And Yahweh Shema Shai, our powers, which is our God, whom we worship, Yahweh and his only begotten son, Yahweh Shai. All right. They have, ultimate power, and, I had just went into a lesson going into, how omnipotent Yahweh Shema Shai is, which you can't even measure, you can't measure, the power of Yahweh Shema Shai. It's unsearchable, but the Lord, he's going to give his power, all right, to his elect, to men on earth. Okay, let me get a quick precept. This is Luke chapter 10 and 19. It says, "Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you." All right. And, this is ultimately going to be fully fulfilled, in the kingdom. All right. That's when this is going to fully be fulfilled. All right. But, the Lord, is also giving us power on this side, starting off, with, receiving the full understanding, the 100% truth. All right. You know how they say knowledge is power. All right. We have the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of Yahweh Shema Shai, the highest form, of wisdom. So right then and there, that sets us above the average person. All right. Just being able to understand his truth is spiritual power. All right. But the Lord is going to give us power. There's different, aspects of the power, and the Lord is going to begin to, amplify his spirit upon his men, his elect. All right. So Luke 10 and 19, I'll read that again. It says, "Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents," and serpents go back into Esau, Edom. All right. And scorpions, going into, 2/3 of Jake, man. Our people are described as scorpions. So coming into the time of Jacob's trouble, all right, there's going to be certain men that the Lord is going to give power to, all right, to defend, themselves, their families, and those that ultimately believe in Yahweh Shema Shai. All right, certain men are going to be, protectors. All the men of the elect, are going to be protected, and, women that cling unto the elect in those days, they're going to be under the shadow of a man. All right. But, hey, whether you be protected, by the angels, by the miracles, all right, or the Lord just outright give you the power, then you're able to, protect yourself. All right. We're in those times where these things are going to happen. Okay. So it says, and over all the power of the enemy. It says, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. All right. So, hey, the Lord is going to make sure his elect is good, man. All right. Because the Lord is all powerful. All right. So, he's going to show that power and give some of that power to his elect. All right. Just so the names of Yahweh Shema Shai will be glorified, doing miraculous things, and then when that spiritual power come, you're going to be like, man, we at the end, we at the end of the end, but, of course, Jacob's trouble still has to take place. All right. The hour of temptation, certain prophecies still have to take place before Yahweh Shai return. All right, so that power is going to be, it's going to be a real strong faith boost for those that believe. All right, and that power is also going to be, converting people into believing as well. All right, because the Lord does things, with a higher purpose. The scriptures say that the Lord's ways is higher than our ways. Okay. So really the power is really for, the believers to believe, those that's coming in at the last moment. All right. And then so the Lord could deliver his elect and establish righteousness on earth. All right. So it's beyond us, which is why, the glory is to be towards Yahweh Shema Shai. Okay. But I'm going to continue to read verse 20. It says, notwithstanding in this rejoice not that the spirits are subject unto you, but rather rejoice because your names are written in heaven. All right. So pretty much instead of rejoicing that the Lord gave you the power, really the spirit you're supposed to be in, is that hey, man, that Lord's will, you part of that is most likely, it's a very high percentage or a very high chance that you're of that number. All right. So, it's about, really wanting to be delivered, man, overall. All right. But let me get another precept and I'll begin to close it out. This is Zechariah chapter 12 and 8. It says, in that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem. All right, so the Lord, Yahweh Shema Shai, is getting ready to defend us. And when the Lord defends, hey, man, when the Lord defends, everything is through. Look at what happened with Egypt. And how the Lord did Egypt and how, what the Lord did unto Egypt is still talked about to this day. Shoot, look at what the Lord is getting ready to do to America. All right. Babylon the Great. All right. The Lord is going to destroy this place with those thermonuclear missiles. All right. Along with the fire of the chariots. So that's a part of the Lord defending us. All right. But leading up to that, there's going to be many, people out to try to get us. All right. There's going to be, marauders. There's going to be, wicked niggas. All right. There's going to be, Edomites. All right. So the Lord's going to have to, enhance his men. And he will. He's going to as part of, prophecy. That brothers is going to get that power. You watch movies like the Book of Eli. He had spiritual power to be able to do all those things. And in one scene, they even try to shoot at him and the bullet either ricocheted off of him, or it went like right through him like a miracle. So things like that is just going to be happening. And the scriptures say, then shall it be known who are my chosen, but it still said, and then they shall be tried. So, it's all about the battle of faith, because that's spiritual power pretty much is the highest level of faith. They say, the scriptures speak about, you know, the faith of a mustard seed, which a mustard seed, you know, when it's nurtured, you know, and watered, it grows to become, you know, the greatest among trees, or amongst, you know, plants or whatever. So pretty much, you know, that faith, we're in a time where faith is going to flourish, you know, and spiritual power, that's the highest form of faith, you know. And it's going to be contagious, man. It's going to be like a viral thing, you know, amongst those that believe, because the power is going to give the next person faith to move mountains, and it's going to give the next person faith to move mountains, you know. So hey, the Lord is getting ready to refresh us, you know, refresh our spirits, because the scriptures say they shall wear out the saints, man. All right. So going back to Zechariah 12:8, it says, in that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David. All right. And we all know, you know, King David pretty much had spiritual power. He was able to do miraculous things like leap over a wall. You know, we're talking about a wall that defends a city. You know, you look at, Samson, you know, he was able to do miraculous things. It says, in the house of David shall be as the Most High. All right. When you go into the word God, the word there is Elohim, which is a plural word, you know, for powers. All right. So going into the angels, it says, and as the angel of the Lord before them. All right. So it said the whole house of David, which consists of the elect. All right. And again, this is going to be fulfilled in its entirety. All right. When we got those new bodies, you know, and pretty much, you know, established, you know, as soon as, you know, we get those new bodies. All right. But leading up to that, the Lord is going to give us a little taste of that power, you know. So let me begin to close it out. It says, I'll read that again. It says, Zechariah 12:8, it says, and in that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David. All right. It says, and he that in the house of David shall be as the Most High, or the powers, as the angel of the Lord before them. And one angel could destroy the whole earth. You know, one angel is powerful enough to destroy the whole planet. All right. And the Lord is coming back, you know, Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai. Yahweh's going to send his son Yahweh Shai to come back, you know, which Yahweh Shai, he's the first angel created. All right. And then he's going to come back with an innumerable amount of angels with them. And one angel was able to destroy the earth. So the magnitude of power is getting ready to be displayed. All right. To all souls on the earth and in the heavens too. You know, so we in the heaviest times. All right. So the Lord is going to have to give his men that power boost, you know, extraordinary, you know, power, or extraordinary men, you know. And what makes them extraordinary is the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of Yahweh Shema Shai, the fear of the Lord, the faith, the names, the true understanding. All right. The true doctrine, 100% truth. All right. And, you know, pretty much having all the ingredients to be of the elect, you know, extraordinary. So going back, or actually, let me get a precept. because we just read, it says, and in that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem. This is Joshua 23:10. Well, I'm gonna start at 8. Well, yeah, I'm gonna start at 8. It says, but cleave unto the Lord your power, cleave unto Yahweh Shema Shai your power, as ye have done unto this day. For the Lord hath driven out from before you great nations and strong. But as for you, no man hath been able to stand before you unto this day. One man of you shall chase 1,000. For the Lord your power, he it is that fighteth for you, as he hath promised you. So, hey, that's what the Lord's gonna do. All right. And you know, people could scoff, they could laugh, but in that time, it's gonna be shown. All right. And people that are unbelievers are going to still see the power, and they're not going to be able to put 2 and 2 together. You know, it's not for them to understand, but it's going to happen. All right. Just like when people see the chariots, you know, they don't think that those are the angels. All right. They don't know what to think. They thinking what Esau told them, you know. So how much more in that time when that power comes? Salakia, Jake walking. Doing a walk and talk. It says, Joshua 23:10, one man of you shall chase 1,000. All right. So one person being able to put 1,000 people to flight. All right. That's the time that we're coming in. All right. It says, for the Lord your power, he it is that fighteth for you. So the Lord is the one that's going to fight for us. We just read that the Lord is going to defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem. So, you know, being able to do these, you know, superhuman abilities. All right. Like, you know, the X-Men. I'm thinking about one character, Nightcrawler. You know, Nightcrawler, if you watch the movie clip, you know, he was on a high level in that movie. I forgot exactly the name of the movie he was in, but, you know, he was like going through different rooms, disappearing, reappearing, you know, going crazy, you know. So, hey, that's going to happen in this time, you know. The Lord's really going to show out, which is just one form of him showing his power, you know, the magnitude of his power. All right, because when people, you know, when you read about the men of the Lord getting power, the prophets, they ask, you know, how'd you get this power? And where'd you get this power? In what name? And they said the names, Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai. By Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai was this man made whole, you know. And the names of Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai is how the power, all right, is going to be known. All right, because the power is going to be directly tied to the Heavenly Father. You know, so, hey, Lord's will, this lesson's edifying. You know, we're in those times, you know, which is really exciting times, even though, you know, we're still, you know, catching hell. But, hey, man, this place is almost done. All right, and the Lord is getting ready, you know, to do miraculous things, man. All right, the Lord's getting ready to shake the whole earth up. You know, our deliverance is near. You know, Lord's will, we part of that number. So I want to say, the water Yahweh Shema Shai, call law Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai Bashem Kakodash. Forgive me the spirit to do this lesson. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who taught us this truth and who also were well. Peace and salutation to those that are hopeful elect. Shalom and a ball.